This is the magicwordpodcast.com.
Hello, this is Scott Wells for the magicwordpodcast.com. Today we're going to talk with someone who is quite different. This is not a magician. This actually is something, though, that I think will interest most all magicians and other people alike. If you ever get to Las Vegas or you're considering that, there are always a lot of great magic shows to go and see, and people always ask me for advice, what suggestions, which shows should you see, and I always give them some advice as to some must-see shows. But one of the things that is also on my radar, and that is the Neon Museum. This is an incredible place. Murray Sawchuk had first told me about this many years ago, and I went to visit it, and it is pretty fantastic. The idea is that many of the old neon signs from these different hotels and casinos and motels and gambling parlors, etc., after they went out of business or that they were replaced by new and flashier kinds of new structures and whatever, because Vegas is always growing and always looking for the next biggest thing. They decided to put all this into a boneyard. And so it, over the years, then slowly became a museum that people wanted to go and see. And they have since developed this exactly into a museum with tours and multiple people who are giving you different kinds of tours. And it is just near downtown. It's probably about walking distance, I guess, from downtown. One of the downtown things near Fremont Street also is the Mob Museum. That's always a pretty cool thing to see. If you've not seen that, that might be something I could talk to someone in a future episode. But in particular, the reason I really kind of was this has a tie to magicians is because whenever that they had closed the Mirage, Siegfried and Roy had a statue that was a bronze-like statue. It wasn't bronze, it was some other material that was on the strip near the secret garden there at the Mirage, between that and Treasure Island. Well, they moved that, and it was unknown, perhaps early on, what was going to happen to it. I mean, they knew the Mirage was going down, but what's going to happen with this really cool statue? Will it be destroyed? Will someone buy it? Whatever. So the Neon Museum had taken this as part of their museum, even though there's no neon attached to it. They are attached to the history of Las Vegas. And certainly Siegfried and Roy are the personification of magic in Las Vegas, or they were. And it's something that should be preserved. And so that's why we talk a little bit about that in this episode that's coming up then too. Johann Rucker is the person I'm speaking with here, who's a docent, who's someone who helps and gives tours and is involved and works for the Neon Museum. And again, I thought this would be something that is a little bit different path than what we normally take of actually talking to a magician about magic and everything, but it is all related, certainly. And we get into some movies and some of the things that had been filmed in and around some of these old hotels that have these neon lights now. Anyhow, I think you're going to enjoy this. If you ever get a chance to go to Las Vegas, something to see, and this will give you some more background as to what you will be seeing and why that you should make it a point to go and visit the museum. Anyhow, please welcome my guest this week from the Neon Museum, Mr. Johann Rucker. Today we're going to travel to Las Vegas to visit with someone who is a newfound friend of mine, actually, who is, I guess, one of the curators, or he's one of the people who works with the Neon Museum as his main focus out in Las Vegas. Las Vegas, as you know, is just a phenomenal place for magic. And if you are not familiar with Lance Rich's book of Neon Dreams, I've always recommended that. And so those who are listening, that's my book I would recommend for our book club here this week. So I would recommend that you go and hear that. But my friend here, Johann Rucker, Johann Rucker is the person who has been working with the Neon Museum for quite a while. I went a few years back, and they have been going through a long renovation. For a long time, I think it was just a place where neon lights were stored, and it wasn't available to the public as a museum per se. It was was just kind of, well, I don't know what we're going to do with this, but we're going to put it over here. And I think, I don't know whether, I don't know the history of this as to how if someone bought this or something, but if you get to Las Vegas, I always say this is one of the must-see things aside from going to see some magic shows, obviously, while you're there in town, but you want to make sure that you go and see some of the things like the Mob Museum is kind of cool downtown. Then you also want to, not too far from downtown is where the Neon Museum is. Kind of getting way off the track over here because I want to bring in my guest then right now. So please welcome Johann Rucker. Hey there, Johann. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
So I want to clarify that. First of all, are you the curator or are you a worker or are you kind of overseer or what is your job actually?
A little bit of everything. I'm the senior manager of research and scholarship here at the museum. So I work with our collections and exhibition team. We're a team of four, and we work on everything from wonderful oral histories to the actual physical care of the collections and our extensive archive here at the museum, the care of the signs, just kind of, and of course the research component. So pretty comprehensive. I think we touch many other departments in the museum.
I would imagine there is no other museum like yours. I mean, when I know there are people who like are curators and work at other museums and they're working with paintings or sculptures or whatever, but you're working with big things all the time and with light and neon and and neon. Well, we'll get to that in a minute as to how rare that is and how difficult it is to try to get the neon lights working again and everything. But is there any other kind of neon museum-ish like yours in the world you know of?
Yeah, we've got a couple of peers here in the country.
Oh,
So you've got the Museum of Neon Art in California, in the Los Angeles area. They do phenomenal work, and they have capabilities for glass bending and neon making on site, which is really stellar. There's also some neon museums, Route 66, and there's one in Ohio, if I'm not mistaken. And then the curiosity of mine is there's one in Warsaw, Poland as well, called the Neon Museum with a Z, and they collect a whole bunch of Soviet era neon signs. But in terms of kind of the Las Vegas specific, using these neon signs as like portals to tell all of these wonderful stories, the Neon Museum I think is very much singular in that regard.
and when it got started, was it somebody who started buying these up and storing them, or was it just a an open field of dreams that someone just started, the city started dumping these things?
Sure. So, I mean, much of our collection now comes from what used to be the old Yesco Boneyard, the Young Electric Sign Company, who's they're a great collaborator to this day, and they've been around for over a century in the Las Vegas and Utah area, just kind of doing wonderful sign work in the Southwest. But they had a neon boneyard for a very long time. That was, to your point, just kind of a hey, we've got some sign components that are broken down, let's take them there. Or on the contrary, it's we've got a neon sign and we need this component. I don't want to break the bank going to go buy that specific component, so maybe I'll stop down at the Neon Museum and see if I can't scrap it from another sign that's down there. And then I'd say that was the status of the museum, as featured in like Mars Attacks or something like that, or Corvette Summer, if you recall. But more recently, within the last decade, I'd say is actually, if no longer than a decade, excuse me, decade plus has been kind of the modern iteration of the museum, much more formalized, but still keeping that boneyard sort of energy about it. We do tours, we do general visits, and now we're very much focused on expanding our collection and collecting these oral histories and stuff. So it's signs plus.
Did it just get to be the point where there were more and more things closing as new things replaced them in Las Vegas? As you and I were talking off camera before, and we were talking about how that they don't keep anything very long. It seems like that Vegas is always rebuilding and trying to have the next new thing, the next best thing to bring in more people and more people. And so, but there is a preservation, is there a preservation society or something that said, hey, we need to do something kind of with these, or how did that kind of actually get started? Or did somebody say we finally have a critical mass that we should do something with this?
Right. No, there's many individuals in our organization's history who kind of laid the groundwork down for what we do today, and yes, definitely working in tandem with the city and with the county and those instrumentalities. There's a lot of good preservation foundations in Las Vegas that are working to preserve this history. Many of them were honored to call them our peers. I think, yeah, Las Vegas has this fantastic sort of dynamic between being a city that destroys and scraps, and like you said, goes on to the next thing. But I think there's also an unsung history of these organizations that are much focused on preserving that kind of fast a kind of pop up come down history, right? I would say us. You've got the Mom Museum, you've got the Atomic Testing Museum. All of these are, I think, organizations that are very much kind of have that Las Vegas specificity in mind. This is the one of the first times in our organization's history I feel comfortable saying that, where we've got so much of the future mapped out based off of properties that are changing signage. We just had some El Cortez signage come into the boneyard not too long ago, and it's nice to be a place that properties themselves are reaching out to and saying, "Hey, we're changing our aesthetic, or we're going to close down. What would you like?" And then we go in, and we always joke about having stickers, little orange stickers that we put dots all over their property and say, "We want this, and this." So it's nice in that regard to be kind of trusted in the community as a bastion of Las Vegas's physical history.
Kind of like a caretaker of Las Vegas history is where this all goes to die, I guess, so to speak, but just
And
living in
and
lights.
exactly, yeah, and to live again. I think we recently changed our mission to be, while still very much focused on signage, to be to encapsulate rather the entire story of Las Vegas. So we are telling that story like we chatted about earlier through the signs almost as portals, but we're very much the museum of Las Vegas.
And when you were talking about the different tours and things you have, I know you have daytime and nighttime tours. I assume that there are individual tours that specialize, like, well, this is the Rat Pack tour or something. These were the hotels, the Sands, or wherever that these guys had worked. What kind of individual tours do you have or feature?
Yeah, so every one of our guides, we have a really stunning selection of guides at the Boneyard who do phenomenal work. Each one of them kind of brings their own maybe focus and fascinations to their general history tours that they offer. So on any given tour, you might hear different perspectives on the same sort of thing, right? In terms of the actual like tour offerings, we've offered in the past. Multilingual tours. We have a Spanish language tour. We have we've offered a tour in the past that was entirely concerned with architecture and design. And one of our recurring tours that we offer nightly, if I'm not mistaken, or regularly rather, is a movie tour. Right? We were chatting about that before we started recording. It's a shared fascination. That was one kind of my way into the museum, was saying like, "Oh, wasn't this place in Mars Attacks?" And then you realize like, "Oh, it was also in Corvette Summer and Cherry 2000, and Now You See Me," and all of this wide range of very rich cinematic history. And then you extrapolate that to Las Vegas as a whole, and you've got a stew going pretty much. We're I think very much making an active effort now, and we have in the past, to listen to the changing sensibilities of what our visitors want. And I think something that a lot of people are saying is that they very much like to hear more of that focus that you were talking about on entertainers and popular culture. And we're without promising anything, obviously, we're very much looking into that right now. So I'd say watch this space in that regard.
Watch this space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of different types of tours and everything. I would imagine that you put together, and it'd be pretty fascinating. And it's there's a different vibe. I've been to both the evening and the daytime, and they're both really spectacular because there are things that you can see in the daytime that you can't see at night, and vice versa.
Yeah.
Because once they turn on the lights, it's like, oh my gosh, that looks really great. But also, you can kind of see their original, I started to say ugliness. Some of the way that the sun has baked the enamel or whatever, on some of the signs. So it's different
Sure.
during the daytime.
It is, yeah. You can kind of see the nooks and crannies. That's actually that's one of the tours that we've offered in the past. One of my first assignments on the job was a kind of hidden signs tour that you would take during the day. You get a completely different experience during the daytime where you see all of those nooks and crannies. You see signs that aren't illuminated that at nighttime kind of get almost like washed out by the bright
Hmm.
stuff, right?
Hmm.
There's some really, really fascinating bits there. I don't know why it's coming to mind, but there's the Big Dipper ice cream parlor. It used to be a little spot. Not terribly far from where the museum is that offered the Sands Sundae and the Moulin Rouge milkshake and all of these sort of themed. Yeah, it was really cool. And of course, everything costs like 10 cents. It was great. So that's a sign that I love because it's just it's a Big Dipper, right? It's little metal die cut stars in that shape. They would have been, if I'm not mistaken, connected via some neon tubing. It's a stunning sign that is a small a small part of Las Vegas's history, but is so beautiful and it's so fun to talk about. And that's one that I feel like you really can only appreciate during the daytime.
But also at night, tell me about the video mapping you do on the walls.
Yeah, so two separate galleries. We have a space, the main boneyard, where all the tours go through, and that's got everything from your Moulin Rouge, your Plaza, goodness, your Flamingo, Hard Rock Cafe, all of that kind of iconography. And then we have the North Gallery, which is a bit of a smaller space, and that is where we have signage from the Liberace Museum, the Flamingo, the Lady Luck, all of that good stuff. There's a very nice big KFC chicken bucket that I'm very partial to. But there's these wonderful pillars that rise out of the middle of that gallery, and an artist named Craig Winslow took great care to projection map the entire space. We now offer three separate shows where you can, at the drop of a hat, it's almost like a slot machine, basically. You have kind of one focused on old Las Vegas, one focused on the Wild West, and one focused on atomic history. And each of those are different experiences that light up this space in different ways, accompanied to music, and it's really something.
And yeah, for those who don't understand what video mapping is, again, you've got like this special lighting that projects on the blank surface of the rest of the building around where you have the um, uh, the actual lighted neons, I guess.
Yeah,
So it looks like the facade of the actual building.
it does. Yeah, and they sing and dance for the viewers. It's really something special.
Um, and going back to the neon that you have, I think it's kind of interesting that of how that you would spend time and effort to try to get those. Do you have a neon artist on staff or someone who I assume that you have to make some things that have been completely shattered or missing?
But we work really closely with some of the fabrication and workshops here in Vegas. So we mentioned Yesco. We also work closely with Hartlauer Signs. They're the two that are coming to mind right now, but many others. And we rely on their expertise. And oftentimes, many of these companies are the same companies that made these signs originally,
Oh,
right? So they've been around for
they
so
got the
long
same
that they can.
artisans. They can just go back in and replicate what they had done. Interesting.
Exactly. Yes, in the case of our, we recently relit signage from the Debbie Reynolds Hollywood Hotel and Casino, and it's a fabulous sort of autograph that she did, rendered in this bright, blazing, kind of face melting pink, and that sign, some of the original fabricators, if I recall correctly, were on site to see it come up and eventually to see it relit at the Neon Museum. So that was a really nice full circle moment.
Wow.
Yeah,
Is neon expensive, or has it gotten more expensive?
I think I think it depends, certainly. I think neon has gone through a lot of shifts in both its popularity and its prevalence, and it's almost coming back now stronger than ever in the way that a lot of those kind of vintage analog things are. Um, I think that the price shifts in regards to that, but neon has always been, from its very earliest history, an inexpensive and attention grabbing technology from its earliest days. Yeah, and I think Las Vegas is very much reflective of that still. You've got a nice balance of the big LED screens and also the really cool attention grabbing neon signs.
I know that LED signs are becoming more and more popular because they're brighter, they burn cooler, they're cheaper. So are you finding that neon is disappearing as they are being replaced by LEDs?
Yeah, almost certainly so. I think anybody driving up and down the strip could see that, but I think maybe it's shifting rather from being the calling card, right? The visual vernacular, the preferred visual vernacular of the casinos, to maybe shifting into smaller businesses and maybe more into our downtown area away from the strip. Neon's all over the city, and it's always going to be popular. I think it's just starting to be more popular with maybe the bespoke or kind of boutique crowd a little bit more,
Mhm.
where a small neighborhood bar or an art gallery or something might have just randomly this super stunning neon sign. And I also think you see neon in art galleries quite a bit more. Some fine artists really do make wonderful work with neon. So a shifting, a broadening of the material.
Well, that kind of gets to a point about the expense of neon and all that. Is there a corporation, I assume, behind this, or an individual, or do you accept um, donations? How is the Neon Museum funded?
Yeah, so we're a nonprofit. So your visits and your donations all help the museum um, tick, basically. We've got a sign restoration webpage that has a number of signs on it that we're kind of sounding, not what's the word, like banging the drum to really drum up attention on
Mhm.
to those specific signs that need some TLC. So yeah, if anybody listening would like to be a part of that, please know you can very easily be a part of the Neon Museum's history.
Okay. Are there some signs that you have decided we're just not going to do anything with that? And
Yeah,
because it's either
you
too expensive, can't be redone, or what?
definitely. Some of our signs are in the condition that they are in, and that is, um, you know, with the exception of a massive miracle or something like that, that they'll kind of be in that state. So our boneyard is reflective of a an actual working boneyard, where some of the stuff, varying degrees of functionality. We very much do that intentionally, and it's not a perfect, gallery or anything like that where you can see everything perfectly laid out. It's staggered. There's a striation. There's layering to it. So some signs block out other signs, etc. But no, absolutely, yeah. There are some signs that are in our boneyard that are very much there to look at. That I would love to see relit in the future, but it's hard to imagine them being relit. Just
So you
knowing
don't really,
what's on the inside.
you only really see those during the daytime, I guess, during that tour. And
There you
so,
go.
do you have things also that are in such a condition that's like, okay, we're going to sell this off? Do you
Uh,
sell things from time to time?
uh, I'm not terribly familiar with that. I don't believe so. I don't. Nothing comes to mind. We'll put it that way. I think as of right now, even though our space is starting to be awfully full, I think we're able to kind of shift stuff around and make room and all that good stuff.
Um, I want to go back also to the different tours and things you have, and some of the. Uh, I'd like to hear some stories about, perhaps one of the more interesting signs that you have there.
Oh, sure. I mean, my go-to, my kind of, I always have it in my back pocket is the story of the Moulin Rouge. Now, the Moulin Rouge is this wonderful bright pink signage, almost rendered in kind of a Parisian cursive script. That sign, again, we talk about these signs as portals. That sign is a portal to everything from the civil rights movement of the 1960s to some of the women designers in Las Vegas's history. So um, that property was the first integrated property in first integrated casino, excuse me, in the country. Opened up in 1955 and it closed in 1955. It was only open for about 5 or 6 months, and in that time they had wonderful performers. It was off the strip. It was on the city's west side, where I'm actually recording from right now. I feel like I could open my window and look at the spot where the Moulin Rouge used to be. Um, Wonderful spot. They were on the cover of Life magazine, the Tropicancan girls at the Moulin Rouge, and it was just such a seismic property where black performers and performers of color could go down to that property and headline and stay in that area and stay in that neighborhood and be out in the open. And it was, gosh, it was. Everybody from Frank Sinatra and the Rat Pack to Count Basie and Nat King Cole, they all commingled at that property, and they had legendary jam sessions that called the 2 a.m. show, right? Where it's after the 8 p.m., after the 10 p.m., after the 12 p.m. Everybody's cutting loose, and maybe they're coming off of the strip itself or from downtown, and they're saying, "Where are we going to go? We're going to go to the Moulin Rouge and get this thing jumping." So that's exactly what they did. It was designed, the property itself, by a firm called Zick and Sharp, who are responsible for many beautiful Las Vegas buildings, and actually designed a high school that I went to, which is bizarre. Kind of an interesting little personal anecdote there, I think, personal history, personal connection to it. But then the sign itself is designed by a woman named Betty Willis, who I imagine many of your listeners will be familiar with her work. She designed the Welcome to Fabulous Las Vegas sign, that
Oh,
giant kind of diamond-shaped sign
hmm.
that is kind of one of the perennial symbols of the city. This is the Moulin Rouge sign is one of just another entry in a massive body of work that I think deserves to be celebrated on a very high level. She's a tremendous designer, and we're honored to have some of her signage at the Boneyard.
And when you go through with also talking about the movies, what are some of the movies that you talk about there?
Oh man, yeah, that's my bread and butter. You're asking about my favorite thing to talk about. I mean, you've got your obvious ones, right? I always say that our movie tour is really good for people who are cinephiles to say, "Oh yeah, I've heard of Casino, I've heard of Swingers, I've heard of The Hangover, um, but I haven't heard of Cool World, and I didn't know that Brad
Great movie.
Pitt's yeah, great movie. Yeah, one of the weirdest, one
Very
of the
weird.
strangest movies. Yeah, I didn't know Brad Pitt's kind of first starring role was
Right.
in a Ralph Bakshi
That's right.
live action animated
Animated.
hybrid, and the climax of which takes place at the Plaza. It's insane. Um, or Showgirls, and knowing that this movie that so many of us have spent so long kind of maligning is now so reclaimed by the LGBT community that queer folks love that movie. Is it's this
Hmm.
kind of brash and campy sort of fairy tale, demented fairy tale in Las Vegas. So fans coming in with their knowledge base hopefully get to make some discoveries and reconsider. And then I think cult film fans as well, your Mars Attacks, your Cool World, your Showgirls, your Looking to Get Out, all of those smaller films get recognized as well.
Leaving Las
But
Vegas.
Leaving Las Vegas, of course. Yeah, 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 yeah. Oh my, I mean, Nick Cage alone has been in, if I'm not mistaken, 6 Las Vegas centric movies, and
Yeah, like Con
he.
Air. Yeah, and
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. The guitar getting clipped, very geographically accurate, obviously. Um, yeah, that movie's hysterical.
there was a
Gosh,
movie
but
also, a James Bond movie, Willard White. They had the White House, which was actually still there. That's the what?
that Diamonds Are Forever
Yeah, and Diamonds Are Forever. What's the name of the casino? Jen Kramer works there.
would have been there's the International, right, and then there's the which used to be the Hilton, the International Hilton, which is now the Westgate. Excuse me.
Westgate. Westgate. That's
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
Westgate. And then Diamonds Are Forever also, I think, mentioned James Bond himself mentions wanting to stay at the Tropicana.
yeah.
And
And they were in
of
Circus
course,
Circus. Then
oh
also,
yeah, of course, yeah, you got it. So it's I always say it's your highs and your lows, right? I try and balance that out on the tour. So and it's the last Best Picture winner, Honora, directed by Sean Baker, is a massive Las Vegas movie. It's about a shotgun wedding, and so we try and stay current in the way
what
that
was that
pop
movie?
culture.
What is it?
Honora, it
Honora.
won, yeah, won Best Picture at the Oscars, and Mikey Madison won Best Actress for it, and I think Sean Baker himself won Best Director for it. That's a very hardcore Las Vegas movie, so it's a huge honor for us. That's a wonderful movie filmed in downtown. I'm very proud to be a Las Vegan when that won Best Picture.
Yeah, I was thinking also another one was it 23? When these guys were that
Oh,
group of
21.
21, yeah, were there a group of card counters from
Yeah.
Harvard or someplace?
Oh yeah, yeah. Based off of a really good book called "Bringing Down the House," if I'm not mistaken, by
Read
Ben
that.
Mesrick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good book. That was actually filmed at my neighborhood casino, which is the Red Rock up in the kind of the north side of town.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well, now again, as far as the tour goes, many of those places are still there. I mean, they're not in the boneyard. So, what places are in the boneyard? I mean, how many places, I guess, have movie uh, connections?
All of them. If
Oh, well, I guess that's
yeah, all
true.
of them.
They've
Yeah,
all
I'll
been
be.
seen. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'll be. That will be. We'll talk again in 50 years, and those will be my last words. Is all these science movies. No, I mean the La Concha Motel signage. It's kind of our logo. It's this little seashell sort of shape. That's on every movie poster for Leaving Las Vegas, and it's also featured in Casino. Like it's everything from a passing glance used in marketing materials to being a core scene between Sharon Stone and Robert De Niro and Casino. It's yeah, I think many unsung histories yet to be discovered. I've got a running list on in my personal non-work life where I kind of try and track all the Las Vegas movies, and I think I'm up to 210 entries now, and I've probably watched about 150 of them. So
Mhm.
we're really really I'm really trying to get in the weeds here. I have seen every film mentioned on the movie tour um, numerous times, so it's it's a labor of love for
Yeah.
sure.
So you can answer any kind of question that anybody throws at you there, pretty
Yes,
much.
sir. Yeah, it's everything from lost movies like gosh, there's this film that came out in the 1930s by Frank McDonald called Boulder Dam. We connect it to signage from the Golden Nugget because the Golden Nugget is kind of our spot to talk about Las Vegas history and the industries that intersect here. And that movie was lost for a very long time. It's recently been rediscovered and it's available online on Internet Archive. That plot always trips me out because he's a drifter coming from the Midwest who murdered somebody, and he arrives to Las Vegas to work on the dam in anonymity. And of course, he falls in love with the femme fatale. It's awesome. There's some really good footage there of the Boulder Dam being built at that time. And
Is
then
it black and white?
within it is black and white, yeah.
Mhm.
And then within the same sentence, we talk about how Superman reversed the dam exploding in Superman the Motion Picture. And
Yeah.
then we talk about The Rock, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, saving the dam from being, destroyed in San Andreas. So it's a little bit of everything. Yeah,
Yeah, from fiction to nonfiction and beyond science
there you
fiction.
go. Yeah.
Um,
Well
what is
said.
one of the oldest, if not the oldest, thing? That probably is a common question that's often asked that you've got there.
We've got a non-lit sign, a non-functioning sign that is from the Green Shack, which was a restaurant kind of in between Las Vegas and Boulder City that then relocated to Las Vegas proper. It says on the sign itself, it was a restaurant based out of a railroad barrack. The sign itself is a little quarter circle, right? That's a little slice of pie that says cocktails, steak, and chicken on it. And because of the word cocktails, we can date it to the earliest would be the end of Prohibition, which is December 1933. So that's our oldest non-functioning piece that we have in the boneyard, almost a century old, which is pretty outstanding. And then we have our oldest lit signage would come from the Chief Hotel Court. It's this um, stunning motor court signage depicting that kind of stereotypical Plains tribe Native American imagery on it, inspired by one of the railroad cars that would come through the city. And if I'm not mistaken, that sign is late 1930s, early 40s. So that one's illuminated. The Green Shack is the oldest overall.
And was the Green Shack, did it have neon on it at one time and it just can't be replaced, or it never had neon?
I'll tell. I do believe that sign is on our restorations list.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't think I'm talking out of turn by saying that. It's yeah, that sign. I I don't even think I've seen a photograph of our specific signage lit. So that talk about a dream come true. That'd be awesome.
When you talked about the motor court, the chief motor court, that reminded me, I guess the first time I think I was in Vegas and seeing some of those old places that were the motor courts that were inexpensive shag carpet places that you could stay. That still had some interesting signage. I want to say it was one like the Shamrock, or not Shamrock. It might have been a
The Tam O'Shanter.
Tam O'Shanter. That was it.
We've got signage from the Tam O'Shanter.
Okay.
We had at one point the actual Tam
Hmm.
like in the property, the kind of hat with the little, the little fluffy ball on the top of it, common in golf. Yeah, I think we might still have that, but we definitely have Tam signage in the boneyard itself. It's really really cool, and that sign actually features on our hidden signs tour, on that daytime tour that we were talking
I
about.
think that might have been even in The Simpsons
Wouldn't be
in one of the
surprised.
episodes.
Groundskeeper Willie goes to the Tam O'Shanter. Yeah, yeah, wouldn't be surprised.
Another thing I want to talk about is something that is not lit or neon, but is a recent acquisition, and that is, as it applies to magicians, obviously, is the statue, if you will, of Siegfried and Roy that used to be on the strip. So tell me about how that got acquired and how that moved and all the process and why it's there.
Yeah, so the Mirage, the signage is it's a wonderful sculpture, fiberglass sculpture rendered in kind of a bronze color of Siegfried, Roy, and one of their tigers. And it used to be located in Siegfried and Roy Plaza, right in between where the Mirage is located and the Treasure Island, right? So since the Mirage closed down, we kind of went in right with those orange dots and started saying we'd like this and this and this and this, and that signage was absolutely one of those pieces. So it was a process, as everything is at the museum, but we acquired it. We're working with one of the restoration companies to get it in tip-top shape before we unveil it in April. So folks listening will be able to see it. It's a really really stunning piece, and I think we've got some good real estate for it in its location in the boneyard. But to your point, that sign lets us talk about not just Siegfried and Roy themselves, that we do get to honor their history and their legacies here in town, but it lets us talk about magic overall, which is something that we've not yet had the opportunity to fully, I think, delve into to this level at the museum. You talk about Siegfried and Roy, you have to talk about the foundations of magic in Las Vegas, and going back to, we mentioned Gloria Day, going back to the first performers who performed in Las Vegas. Lance Rich writes so beautifully about them in his book dating back to the 1910s, 1920s. there's a lineage here that spans, you know, over a century, that we now have the opportunity to talk about using that Siegfried and Roy signage as a portal, right?
And so there aren't any magic hotels or magic casinos necessarily, I guess, but there have been a lot of magicians who have been featured, like Siegfried and Roy, and still are. I mean, David Copperfield doesn't have his own casino, but he's got his name on the side of the MGM, which I understand they just recently had taken that off of the windows from downtown.
I actually haven't driven down there in a while. Yeah, that would have been facing the Tropicana when the Tropicana was still open.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it was him and a dinosaur and a UFO and all that good stuff.
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But so I recall all that the statue before was kind of like you said, like it wasn't in the secret garden, but it was surrounded by trees and everything, so it looked like it was in a garden. So I assume you're going to try to replicate as best you can around there.
I think we're looking at including some of the crystals, if I'm not mistaken, that were surrounding kind of the base. Um, I, I I think so. I'd say stay tuned for that. But we have it in a spot in the boneyard where, because the sign itself is not lit, right? Where we're going to ensure that it is very appropriately and evocatively, I think, lit by some of the signage that's around it.
But getting to that statue specifically, it
Yeah.
never was a neon sign. So, I mean, what
Mhm.
was it and or who was it that had said, well, we ought to get that before it gets just sent to the trash, or maybe it was going to be offered for sale at an auction? I mean, what was going to happen to it otherwise had you not come upon it? And why did you decide to put that in the neon museum? It has no neon on it.
Yeah, I shudder to think. I shudder to think what would have happened to that signage,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah, it breaks my heart to imagine. It's a huge, huge, Siegfried and Roy are such a massive part of the Las Vegas story, right? The headliner story, the entertainment story, the magic story, all of that. And we've recently changed our mission to be much more inclusive, to be the story of Las Vegas or the stories of Las Vegas. So again, envisioning each of these signs as a portal to talk about X, Y, or Z. The Siegfried and Roy sign, I think, very much that it's a killer opportunity to talk about two figures that we otherwise would mention maybe as part of the frontier because we have frontier signage or part of the Lido. But in terms of them getting their own designated spot as they truly do deserve, kind of on Front Street there, it's too good of an opportunity to pass up.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you guys have decided to preserve history the way you have, not just with the neon signs, but certainly, with Siegfried and Roy,
Yeah,
because I can't think of anything else necessarily that would be such an iconic figure as that statue that would personify, other than the Las Vegas sign, like you were talking about earlier.
right.
It used to be that really was not such a big thing. I recalled when my son had turned 21, we went out to Las Vegas and we went over to take a picture by that sign. And this
Yeah,
would have been back like in 99, 2000, I think. Yeah, it would have been 90, 99. And at the time, there was no parking. You had to dash across the street or whatever and kind of jump a fence or whatever to go in. And I remember we had a local friend of mine who was in Las Vegas who I had take the picture. And she was saying, why do you want a picture of that sign? I mean, that's kind of weird. And I said, well, I just kind of like the look of it and the background and looking down the strip and everything. And of course, looking at this 26 years later, it's just you got to wait in line. They got parking. I mean, it is a
yeah,
huge, huge deal. I mean, that is a tourist attraction for sure. It's kind of like, we were before our time,
yeah. Yeah,
in getting
seriously,
that.
what other city in the world has a piece of signage that people from all over the world come to flock to, right? It's
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm going to put on the website so people can see this later. But this was oh
Wow, the
my,
Mandalay Bay in the background.
yeah.
That's awesome.
Can't
Yeah,
see it.
like that's now they've got grass and a bunch of greenery and places
Yeah.
to
But that
sit
was
and
just
stuff.
Pebble, just this caliche, I guess
Yeah,
that was there at the time. So
yeah.
it was way back in the day. What that was does say. Yeah, in 99.
Yeah, that would have been Las Vegas as I remember it as a kid.
Yep. So yeah, a
That's
lot of
awesome.
things certainly have changed, and I'm again glad you guys are keeping tradition with that. And you've got a website then also, I guess people can go to and they make reservations. Um,
Yeah, it'll be on neonmuseum.org.
mhm.
And we're on social media and we do that whole thing at the Neon Museum.
When I first was there and trying to go and see it, they were sold out. Seems like that it is a very popular attraction, and if you don't sign up early enough, you run out of tickets. Has that changed, or
I would always recommend checking the website and making a reservation. Yeah,
yeah, okay,
there you
okay.
go. Yeah,
It's a very popular attraction.
hey, we're I think very lucky to have so many cool visitors from all over the place. So,
And how many people actually work there?
oh man, goodness, it has grown so much since I started. Our team of docents now is or excuse me, museum guides at the museum proper is probably over 20 or 30, if I'm not mistaken. I haven't taken a head count in a minute, but I just know parking over here is getting a little bit trickier. So yeah,
And how
it's
long have
it's
you been there?
definitely. I've been at the museum for about 5 years. So I
Mhm.
basically popped out of my undergrad in anthropology and film from UNLV, and then COVID happened, and I was trying to figure out what was going on, and working at a grocery store job, and applied on a whim to the Neon Museum, and now we're here. So it's really I love my job. It's a
I
very
was going
cool
to say
place to work.
it's almost kind of like a dream come true. I mean, it's a neon dream.
There you go. Yeah, well said. Yeah.
So to speak. Well, I'm going to kind of leave it at that, but also just close by saying I know that you are a fan and have been listening to the podcast, and I thank you so very much for listening. And
Yes,
you
sir.
know, it's called a magic word, and I always close by asking what people's magic word is. What would be your magic word?
Oh, let's go with community. Community is my magic word. I think the museum has kind of edified that for me. Um, we work so closely with our ecosystem here, and I get to talk to wonderful folks like you, and over the course of the research, it's just wonderful to be able to kind of build a community in that regard. So I think that's my magic word.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's very important, you know, to use that community also and use contacts and the way that friendships are built and to learn more about history. And that's what the Neon Museum again exemplifies is keeping that history, which seems to be again torn down, you know, almost regularly, too regularly,
Sure.
and it's hard to keep up with that. But to go and see some of the history, that is the place to go and to see some listen to those tours. So
Thank you, sir.
thank you very much, Johann. That's been wonderful. I appreciate your time.
Likewise, thank you so much, and keep up the excellent work. I know we'll be listening over in Las Vegas.
Thank you very much. So, with the
Of
Magic
course.
Word Podcast, that was Johann Rucker. This is Scotty out. I don't know about you, but I learned a lot there. I have been to the museum, as I had mentioned, but some of the things that he was telling me about, just I thought will give a new perspective the next time that I go. And I do plan on going back to visit. It looks like they're adding things all the time, particularly as more of Las Vegas gets torn down. They have to put this stuff somewhere, and this is just a great place for it to go. So, if you have an opportunity to go to Las Vegas, perhaps you might look at this as some sort of a travel guide or travel log so that you can make a plan to go there as well. So, they do have a website, and I recommend that you go and visit the website and also that you will also make your reservations because I can tell you that from time to time they do fill up and you don't want to just be disappointed. So you don't want to show up and then go to the website and find out it's too late. That first time that I did that, we were in Vegas and someone said you should see it. And we went online, all the reservations are gone. So sometimes it books up weeks in advance. So anyhow, go and check that out. It's a very popular thing. So until next week, stay well, get booked, and remember to be part of the community. This is Scotty out.